Most of the time, the biggest problem in our life is not what others say to us, but what we say without thinking. A thought appears in the mind, and before we even understand it, it comes out of our mouth. We assume that because a thought is ours, it must be important. But the truth is, the mind produces thousands of thoughts every single day, and not all of them deserve to be spoken. Just like every notification on your phone does not require an immediate response, every thought in your mind does not require a voice. Think about this carefully. Have you ever spoken in anger and later thought, if only I had stayed quiet for a moment? That moment of regret is the proof that not every thought deserves a voice. When emotions are high, wisdom is usually low. Anger, jealousy, ego, insecurity, and fear often disguise themselves as honesty or self-expression. We say, I am just being honest, but deep inside, we know that honesty without compassion is cruelty. Silence at that moment would have been far more powerful than words. The mind is like a restless child. It keeps talking, complaining, judging, comparing, and reacting. If we give a voice to every thought, we become prisoners of our own mind. A wise person understands this and creates a small gap between thinking and speaking. In that gap, awareness is born. In that gap, we get a chance to ask ourselves a simple question: is what I am about to say necessary, kind, and useful right now? If the answer is no, silence becomes the smartest response. Many relationships are broken not because of big betrayals, but because of small, unnecessary words spoken at the wrong time. A sarcastic comment, a harsh joke, an emotional outburst, a sentence spoken just to win an argument. These words may feel satisfying for a few seconds, but they leave a lasting wound. Silence, on the other hand, has the power to heal. When you don't react immediately, you give the other person space to reflect, and you give yourself time to calm down. Often, the situation resolves itself without a single word being spoken. There is also a deep misunderstanding that staying quiet means you are weak or afraid. In reality, the opposite is true. It takes tremendous inner strength to hold back words when the ego is screaming to be heard. Anyone can react. Very few can respond thoughtfully. Silence is not suppression. Silence is control. It is the ability to choose peace over ego, wisdom over impulse, and long-term harmony over short-term satisfaction. In today's world, especially as we move into 2026, everyone feels pressured to share opinions. Social media has trained us to believe that if we don't comment, we don't exist. But constant expression without reflection leads to mental exhaustion and unnecessary conflict. You don't have to attend every argument you are invited to. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. Some people are not looking for understanding, they are looking for reaction. Your silence denies them that power. When you stop giving a voice to every thought, something beautiful happens. Your words become fewer, but their impact becomes stronger. People start listening more carefully because they know you don't speak randomly. Your presence becomes calming, not chaotic. Your relationships become deeper because your words carry weight and intention. Silence sharpens your awareness. You start observing more, understanding more, and reacting less. There is an old wisdom that says, think before you speak. But in reality, we need to go one step further. We need to filter our thoughts before they become words. Ask yourself, Will this improve the situation or worsen it? Will this bring peace or tension? Will this help growth or feed my ego? If the thought fails these questions, it doesn't deserve a voice. Ultimately, mastering this one habit can transform your life. You will make fewer enemies, experience less regret, and enjoy more inner peace. You will realize that silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is confidence without noise. It is wisdom without announcement. And when you finally do speak, your words will come from clarity, not chaos. Because the greatest sign of intelligence is not speaking everything you think, but knowing exactly what is worth saying. Most people don't realize how expensive unnecessary conversations are. We think energy is lost only through physical work, but a huge amount of our mental and emotional energy leaks through pointless arguments, over-explaining, gossip, complaining, and reacting to things that don't truly matter. Every time you engage in a conversation that disturbs your peace, a little bit of your energy is taken away. Silence, when chosen consciously, acts like a shield. It protects your inner resources and keeps you centered in a world that constantly tries to pull you in every direction. Think about how you feel after a heated argument. Even if you believe you were right, do you feel peaceful afterward? Usually not. The mind keeps replaying the conversation again and again. You think of better replies you could have given. You imagine different outcomes, and you carry that emotional weight with you for hours or even days. That is energy loss. Silence could have saved you from that drain. When you don't engage, the mind doesn't get trapped in loops of justification and resentment. There are people who survive on reactions. They provoke, criticize, mock, or question you, not because they want clarity, but because they want attention or control. When you respond emotionally, you hand them your energy. When you stay silent or respond calmly, you keep your power with you. Silence is not running away, it is refusing to participate in unnecessary drama. It is choosing self-respect over self-explanation. Your energy is limited. You wake up with a certain amount of mental and emotional strength each day. If you spend it arguing with people who don't understand you, explaining yourself to those who have already decided to misunderstand you, or worrying about opinions that don't build your future, you will feel exhausted even without doing much. Silence helps you conserve that energy so you can invest it in things that truly matter: your growth, your work, your health, and your relationships that actually add value to your life. Many times, we speak not because it is required, but because we feel uncomfortable with silence. Silence makes us face ourselves. It exposes our insecurity, our need for approval, and our fear of being judged. So we talk, we justify, we defend, and we overshare, but every unnecessary word costs energy. When you learn to sit comfortably in silence, you realize how much strength it takes to simply be without explaining who you are to the world. Notice how peaceful people speak less. It's not because they have nothing to say, it's because they have learned where their energy should go. They don't react to every comment. They don't try to correct everyone. They don't feel the need to win every conversation. They protect their peace like a valuable treasure. Silence becomes their way of telling the world, my energy is precious and I choose where it flows. In 2026, distractions are everywhere. Notifications, messages, opinions, debates, and noise never stop. If you allow every external stimulus to pull a reaction from you, you will constantly feel tired, irritated, and mentally scattered. Silence creates a pause between stimulus and response. In that pause, you regain control. You breathe, you choose. And that choice saves energy. It prevents emotional burnout and mental fatigue. Silence also helps you recover energy. When you stop talking, reacting, and engaging, the mind slowly settles down. You start noticing your breath, your surroundings, and your inner state. That calmness is not just emotional, it is deeply physical. Your nervous system relaxes. Your body stops preparing for conflict. You feel lighter, clearer, and more focused. That is the healing power of silence. Another important truth is that not everyone deserves access to your energy. Some people come into your life only to criticize, drain, or confuse you. You don't need to cut them off aggressively or confront them dramatically. Sometimes, the most powerful boundary is silence. When you stop responding, they slowly lose interest because there is nothing to feed on. You, on the other hand, feel stronger because you didn't waste yourself trying to change them. When you learn to protect your energy through silence, your life starts changing subtly but deeply. You sleep better because your mind is not overloaded with unresolved conversations. You feel calmer because you are no longer constantly on defense. You make better decisions because your energy is not scattered across meaningless battles. Silence becomes a form of self-care, not neglect. Ultimately, protecting your energy is an act of self-love. It means you value your inner peace more than momentary validation. Silence teaches you that you don't have to attend every argument, respond to every comment, or explain every decision. You are allowed to choose peace. And when you do speak, it comes from a place of clarity and strength, not exhaustion. That is the true power of silence. It keeps you whole in a world that constantly tries to drain you. One of the most powerful yet underrated benefits of silence is that it allows you to truly see people for who they are. When you speak less and listen more, you stop projecting your own assumptions onto others and start observing their behavior, words, and intentions more clearly. Most of the time, we are so busy preparing our response that we miss what the other person is actually revealing about themselves. Silence removes that distraction and turns you into a calm observer rather than a reactive participant. When you stay quiet, people feel the need to fill the space. Silence makes many people uncomfortable, so they start talking more. In that process, they often reveal their insecurities, their values, their jealousy, their kindness, or their true motives without even realizing it. A person who pretends to be confident may reveal deep insecurity. A person who claims to be supportive may show subtle resentment. A person who acts kind may show consistency and sincerity. All of this becomes visible only when you are not interrupting, correcting, or defending yourself. Words can be deceptive, but patterns are honest. Silence helps you notice patterns. How someone speaks about others when they think no one is judging them. How they react when they are not getting attention. How they behave when things don't go their way. When you stop reacting, you stop influencing their behavior, and they begin to act naturally. That natural behavior is the truth. Silence, in this way, becomes a mirror that reflects people's real nature. There is a reason why wise people ask few questions and give fewer explanations. They understand that the more you talk, the more you reveal yourself, but the more you stay silent, the more others reveal themselves. When you explain too much, you give people material to twist, judge, or use against you. When you stay quiet, you gather information, and information, when combined with awareness, becomes wisdom. Many times, we rush to defend ourselves when someone misunderstands us, but silence can be a better response. If a person is genuinely curious, they will ask respectfully. If they are only looking to provoke, your silence will frustrate them. That frustration often exposes their intention. People who seek truth respect silence. People who seek drama feel threatened by it. This difference becomes very clear when you stop feeding unnecessary conversations. Silence also helps you understand who respects you and who only tolerates you. Notice who becomes uncomfortable when you don't over-explain. Notice who demands constant justification. Notice who listens patiently and who interrupts. These small observations tell you everything you need to know about the emotional maturity of the people around you. You don't need to confront them or label them. Their behavior speaks louder than your words ever could. In relationships, silence can be revealing in a very deep way. When you stop chasing, explaining, or forcing conversations, you see who steps forward naturally. You see who makes effort without being reminded. You see who values your presence and who only values the attention you give them. Silence removes illusions. It strips away false closeness and shows real connection. There is also a personal transformation that happens through silence. As you listen more, you start listening not just to others, but to yourself. You become aware of how certain people make you feel. Calm or anxious, inspired or drained, safe or guarded. These feelings are messages. When you are constantly talking, you drown them out. Silence allows those inner signals to be heard clearly, helping you make better decisions about who deserves a place in your life. Some people fear silence because it exposes truth. It exposes intention without disguise. That is why manipulators often talk a lot. They try to control the narrative. When you remain silent, you take back that control. You are no longer being led by their words. You are watching their actions. And actions, over time, never lie. This doesn't mean you should never speak or express yourself. It means you should choose moments of silence strategically and wisely. Speak when clarity is needed. Speak when kindness is required. But stay silent when words will only add noise. In that silence, observe, learn, understand. Let people show you who they are without interference. Over time, this habit sharpens your intuition. You start sensing things before they are spoken. You notice inconsistencies, emotional shifts, and unspoken intentions. This awareness protects you from disappointment and unnecessary attachment. You stop being surprised by people's behavior because you have already seen the signs. Ultimately, silence is not emptiness, it is awareness. It gives you the gift of understanding people without being blinded by emotions or assumptions. When you learn to keep quiet, you gain the ability to see clearly. And in a world full of noise and false impressions, clarity is one of the greatest strengths you can develop. One of the most painful realities of life is that once words leave your mouth, they no longer belong to you. They cannot be edited, deleted, or taken back. Even if you apologize later, the echo of those words remains in the other person's mind. Silence on the other hand, is always reversible. You can choose to speak later, but you can never choose to unspeak what has already been said. Understanding this simple truth can save you from a lifetime of regret. In moments of anger, frustration, or emotional overload, words come out faster than wisdom. At that time, the mind is not interested in truth or kindness, it is interested in release. Saying something sharp feels relieving for a moment, like letting out pressure. But that relief is temporary. What remains is damage. A relationship may change forever because of one sentence spoken without thought. Trust, once broken by careless words, takes years to rebuild, if it ever fully does. Many people believe that saying, sorry, can fix everything. Apologies are important, but they are not magical erasers. Words leave emotional imprints. A harsh comment can replay in someone's mind again and again, especially when it comes from someone they trust. Silence at the right moment could have prevented that wound from ever forming. This is why restraint in speech is not weakness, it is foresight. Think about how many conflicts escalate simply because both sides keep talking. One word triggers another, and before anyone realizes it, the conversation turns into a battlefield. Each person is trying to win, not understand. In such moments, silence is not surrender. Silence is stepping out of the fire before it spreads. When you choose not to respond immediately, you stop the chain reaction. You give emotions time to cool down, and you protect yourself from saying something you will regret for years. Silence also gives you the power of timing. Just because something needs to be said doesn't mean it needs to be said right now. Timing can change the meaning of words completely. The same sentence spoken in anger can sound cruel, while spoken calmly later, it can sound wise and constructive. Silence buys you that time. It allows clarity to replace chaos. It allows intention to replace impulse. Another important aspect is that words are often misunderstood. Tone, mood, and context affect how your message is received. In emotionally charged situations, people don't listen to understand, they listen to react. Even well-intended words can be twisted. Silence avoids unnecessary misinterpretation. It prevents you from being trapped in endless explanations and justifications for something you never meant in the first place. Many people speak quickly because they fear losing control of the situation. They think if they don't respond immediately, they will look weak or lose respect. But in reality, people often respect those who pause before speaking. That pause signals maturity and self-control. It shows that you are not driven by emotion, but guided by awareness. Silence communicates confidence more strongly than defensive words ever could. There is also a deep inner peace that comes from knowing you did not harm someone with careless speech. Regret is heavy. It sits in the heart and whispers, "You should not have said that." Silence removes that burden. Even if staying quiet feels uncomfortable in the moment, it feels peaceful later. Regret is loud, peace is quiet. In today's world, where messages are sent instantly and opinions are shared without reflection, the cost of careless words has increased. A single sentence can be screenshotted, forwarded, and remembered long after you have forgotten saying it. Silence protects you not only emotionally, but also socially and professionally. It keeps you safe from consequences you never intended to face. Choosing silence does not mean suppressing your truth. It means respecting your truth enough to express it wisely. There will always be a better moment to speak, a calmer state of mind, and a clearer way to communicate. Silence keeps that door open. Words once spoken in haste slam it shut. Ultimately, learning to stay silent when emotions are high is an act of intelligence and compassion toward others and toward yourself. It is understanding that peace is more valuable than winning an argument, and long-term harmony is more important than short-term relief. When you realize that words cannot be taken back, but silence always can, you begin to speak less, think more, and live with far fewer regrets. Many of the worst decisions people make in life are not made because they lack intelligence, but because they allow their emotions to take control in the moment. When emotions rise, clarity falls. Anger, fear, jealousy, excitement, or hurt can completely hijack the thinking mind. In those moments, the brain shifts from logic to survival, from wisdom to impulse. Silence becomes the bridge that brings you back from reaction to reason. When you react emotionally, you are not responding to the situation as it truly is, you are responding to how it feels in that instant. Feelings are powerful, but they are also temporary and often misleading. A comment may feel like an attack when it is not. A delay may feel like rejection when it is not. A disagreement may feel like disrespect when it is simply a difference of opinion. If you speak or act while these emotions are at their peak, your decision will be based on distortion, not truth. Silence creates space. That space is where intelligence operates. Even a few seconds of silence can prevent a lifetime of consequences. When you pause instead of reacting, your nervous system begins to settle, your breath slows, your heart rate stabilizes. In that calm state, the rational part of the brain comes back online. Only then are you capable of making decisions that align with your values rather than your temporary emotions. Consider how often people send messages in anger and regret them later. At that moment, hitting send feels justified. But once the emotion fades, embarrassment and regret take its place. Silence would have saved them from that mistake. Emotional reactions give a false sense of urgency, making everything feel immediate and dramatic. Silence reminds you that not everything needs an instant response. Another danger of emotional reactions is that they often escalate situations unnecessarily. One angry word invites another. One impulsive decision leads to another. Before you realize it, a small issue has turned into a major problem. Silence breaks this chain. It stops escalation. It gives everyone involved a chance to cool down. Many conflicts resolve themselves when emotions are allowed to settle without fuel. Emotional decisions also tend to be self-centered, even when we don't intend them to be. When emotions are high, we focus on how we feel, not on the bigger picture. We forget long-term consequences. We forget other people's perspectives. We forget our own principles. Silence brings you back to alignment. It reconnects you with who you want to be, not just how you feel. In leadership, relationships, and personal growth, the ability to pause is a sign of true intelligence. Intelligent people don't rush to react, they observe, they assess, they choose. Silence is their tool. It allows them to gather information instead of acting on assumptions. It allows them to respond with strategy instead of emotion. There is also a deep sense of self-respect that comes from controlling emotional reactions. When you look back and realize that you stayed calm in a situation where you could have exploded, you feel stronger. That strength builds confidence. You begin to trust yourself more. You realize that emotions do not own you. You can experience them without being ruled by them. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. Emotions are natural and important. Silence does not deny emotion, it delays expression until it can be healthy and constructive. You still feel anger, sadness, or frustration, but you don't let those feelings dictate your decisions. You give yourself time to process them privately before acting publicly. In today's fast-paced world, reacting quickly is often praised, but reacting wisely is far more valuable. Social media, instant messaging, and constant connectivity push us to respond immediately. But speed without wisdom leads to mistakes. Silence slows you down just enough to protect you from yourself. Over time, practicing silence during emotional moments sharpens your judgment. You start recognizing emotional triggers earlier. You become aware of patterns. You know when to step back instead of stepping in. This awareness transforms your decision making. You stop sabotaging yourself through impulsive reactions and start building a life guided by clarity and intention. Ultimately, emotional reactions destroy intelligent decisions because they disconnect you from your higher self. Silence reconnects you. It gives intelligence the time it needs to lead. And in that quiet pause, you choose responses that create growth instead of regret, peace instead of chaos, and wisdom instead of impulse. One of the most liberating realizations in life is understanding that not every battle deserves your time, energy, or words. Many people exhaust themselves trying to respond to every comment, defend every opinion, and correct every misunderstanding. They believe that if they stay quiet, they lose. But the truth is, many battles are designed not to be won, only to drain you. Silence becomes the wisdom that helps you walk away without carrying unnecessary scars. A battle is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it looks like a debate that goes nowhere, a repeated argument with the same person, or a constant need to prove your worth. These situations feel important in the moment because ego is involved. Ego wants recognition, validation, and control. But growth often begins when you stop feeding the ego and start protecting your peace. Silence helps you identify which battles are real and which are simply distractions. Some arguments are rooted not in truth, but in stubbornness. When two people are more interested in being right than in understanding each other, no amount of explanation will help. Words become weapons rather than bridges. In such cases, continuing to speak only deepens the conflict. Silence becomes a form of clarity. It acknowledges that understanding cannot be forced, and peace is sometimes found in letting go. Choosing not to fight every battle does not mean you lack courage. In fact, it takes courage to step back when the world expects you to react. Society often glorifies confrontation, but rarely speaks about the strength it takes to disengage. Silence is not avoidance, it is discernment. It is knowing when your voice will create resolution and when it will only create noise. There are also battles that are fueled by other people's projections. Someone may be angry, insecure, or unhappy, and they look for a target to release their frustration. If you respond emotionally, you become part of their inner chaos. If you stay silent, their behavior becomes visible for what it truly is. You don't need to absorb someone else's emotional burden just to prove a point. Time is another important factor. Some battles fade if you don't feed them. What feels urgent today often feels insignificant tomorrow. Silence gives time the chance to do its work. It allows emotions to settle and perspectives to change. Many issues resolve naturally when people calm down, reflect, or move on. Speaking too much too soon often prevents that natural resolution. In relationships, constant fighting over small issues slowly erodes connection. Winning an argument may give temporary satisfaction, but it can damage trust and intimacy. Silence, when used wisely, can protect relationships from unnecessary harm. It allows space for understanding instead of escalation. It reminds both sides that the relationship is more important than the disagreement. There is also a personal cost to fighting every battle. You become tense, defensive, and mentally exhausted. Your mind stays busy replaying arguments and imagining future confrontations. This constant state of conflict steals joy and creativity. Silence frees mental space. It brings calm. It allows you to focus on things that truly deserve your attention and effort. When you stop engaging in unnecessary battles, something interesting happens. People begin to treat you differently. Those who seek drama lose interest. Those who value maturity gain respect for you. Your words become more powerful because they are not wasted. When you finally choose to speak, people listen because they know you don't speak without reason. Choosing your battles also helps you stay aligned with your values. Not every disagreement requires your involvement. Ask yourself, does this matter in the long run? Will this improve my life or my character? Will speaking bring peace or prolong conflict? If the answer is no, silence becomes the most intelligent response. Ultimately, life is not about winning arguments. It is about living well. Peace, growth, and clarity come from knowing when to stand firm and when to step back. Silence teaches you that walking away is sometimes the greatest victory. By choosing not to fight every battle, you conserve your strength for the moments that truly matter. And that is where real power lies.